Greetings, dear viewers. Welcome. Today's poem is Mikhail Botvinnik 1960 and Game 1. This is a poem about the Game 1 of the 1960 World Championship match that was held between Mikhail Tal and Mikhail Botvinnik. Before I step into the poem, I want to give a brief introduction to the players. Mikhail Tal was a world champion from 1960 to 1961. Even though he was a world champion for only 1 year, he is still a very famous name in the chess world, and the reason is that he played a very attacking, imaginative chess. He sacrificed material and literally created art on board, and that was the reason he was nicknamed as the Magician from Riga. Botvinnik was considered as the patriarch of Soviet chess. Not only because of the fact that he was a world champion for a very long duration, but he was also actively involved in the organization of tournaments, coming up with new rules, coming up with certain measures that would make the whole format, whole cycle a little better. So Botvinnik contributed that way, and he also established the famous Botvinnik Chess School, wherein he created a lot of world champions from that particular school. In 1960, when this match happened, Mikhail Botvinnik was already the world champion and Mikhail Tal was the contender. So if Tal wins this, he would be the new world champion, since Botvinnik was already the world champion. Game 1 is interesting. It has some interesting details that I have discussed in the poem. I want to throw light on that very briefly. Before Game 1, Mikhail Tal had mixed emotions. The reason was that Mikhail Tal had good tournaments prior to World Championship match of 1960, and in majority of the tournaments he had lost the first round, and that had led him to success. So Tal was a little confused, because that approach is not going to be feasible for a World Championship match, wherein you are going to say that let me lose the first match and then let me just take it over from there. It's not going to be a right attitude, and Tal was a little confused, but still he did manage to, of course, put aside all his superstitions. He won this particular game, Game 1, and he also went on to become the world champion by winning the match as well. Botvinnik employed the French defense. French defense was considered as not a very strong system for black, in the sense it required a lot of preparation. The player who plays that needs to ensure that he has looked at all the lines to ensure that white doesn't get an advantage. And considering that Botvinnik was playing this against Mikhail Tal, who really loves to go on the aggressive side, it's a testimonial to how much Botvinnik believed in homework, how much he believed in preparations for specific games. And the other thing that I want to talk about is, usually we associate Mikhail Tal with great attacks, great sacrifices, but in this game there comes a point after 25th move wherein the queen comes back to its original position, and in that particular position the king is in its starting position after running around. Castling rights are not there, it's still on e1, the queen is on d1, the bishop is on f1, all the three pieces are in the initial squares, but the evaluation is still favoring for white, which I found really interesting, because usually Tal just goes on the aggressive, utilizes his pieces, penetrates the enemy camp, and he attacks that way. That is also one thing that I found it interesting. Lastly, by this game, Mikhail Tal took the advantage and ensured that he maintained the lead and won the 1960 World Championship match to become the world champion. Let us get into the poem and understand about what happened in Game 1. The spirit of Tal was not high, which may make one sigh, since the first round losses in many tournaments, to his own amazement, had resulted in a great event. Botvinnik employing the French defense was not a surprise. He had done his homework well, but Tal's play had a story to tell. Tal obtained a picturesque position with the white queen retreat to d1, king after the walk being on e1, the bishop still waiting on f1. Three pieces in the starting position, yet white was favored in the evaluation. Victory was what Tal had to savor, though it did not emanate his flavor. With the first game of the championship in the bag, Tal knew that he shouldn't let the lead sag. The full poem along with the explanation is available in the description. Thanks for your attention.